about these words: richer and poorer, faster and slower, stronger and weaker. The last set is the subject of our discussion: power. Power is the ability to influence others. In the context of interpersonal communication and relationships, it's an important concept to study. The power you have and the power others have sets the course for the relationship. We need to learn to manage our own power in our relationships and manage the power of others in our relationships. Let's call this interaction management. Before delving into interaction management, we should briefly examine the 6 types of power that are present in relationships as proposed by several researchers. They are referent power, legitimate power, expert power, information or persuasion power, reward power, and/or coercive power. Referent power is when people want to be like you, and therefore you can influence them with less effort. Legitimate power is when people perceive you to be in legitimate control over them, like a police officer or even a teacher in school. Expert power is when others perceive you as powerful because of your expertise or knowledge. Information or persuasion power is when you're perceived as powerful because you have credible information and you present this in a persuasive way. Reward power is demonstrated when people listen to you and act on your words because you can reward them. The opposite of this, coercive power, is when people listen to you and act on your words because you have the power to punish them. Now let's apply this to our interpersonal relationships. We need to learn to manage our own power in relationships. In thinking about any particular relationship we might have, we can probably identify if we are the more powerful one in the relationship or the less powerful. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but quite often it is. Think about the relationship and ask yourself if you are the more powerful one or the less powerful, and why. And should it be this way? If you are an expert or you have legitimate power because of a position, that's one thing. But what if the relationship is an equal relationship, like a marriage or a romantic relationship or a roommate relationship? Just because you can bowl someone over with powerfully persuasive words, or they might fear you in some way, or if you have power to exert a reward motivation, does that mean you should be exerting that type of power? If we are going to manage our own power in relationships with others, it should start by respecting others. If you do have legitimate or expert power, consider the perspectives and feelings of others with your verbal and nonverbal messages. Just because you can exert reward or punishment does not mean that should be your first choice. Use your interpersonal communication skills to convey and receive messages well. Instead of exerting power, seek to gain compliance from others with negotiating skills. We need to transition to the other side of the coin. How do we manage the power of others in our relationships? We should begin by acknowledging that respect of properly exhibited power by others in authority is appropriate and desired. But knowing what to do when power is exhibited inappropriately in a relationship is also important. We need to be able to recognize the dark side of power, harassment, and power plays. Let's deal first with harassment. Harassment can be based on sex, race, religion, status, and a host of other issues. It's when degrading and unwanted language, conversations, or actions are directed towards someone. To manage this type of inappropriate power from others, you should take the following actions. First, have a healthy self-image of yourself. The other person has the problem, not you. Second, remember the skills of communicating you have learned. Take the emotion out of it. Ask to speak to the other person in a safe situation. Hear their side and attempt to resolve it together. Whether they agree to a solution or not, ask them assertively not to do this action in the future and then leave. Third, go to the appropriate person and file a complaint. Before we go on, here is the last final exam question. Be able to name the 6 types of power discussed in this video earlier and in the chapter. Let's now deal with power plays. It is important to learn to recognize when someone is using power to get you to do something inappropriate. It can be very subtle. Sometimes people will break common boundaries of privacy in a relationship and then act like it was an accident. Or they might act like you owe them something. Or they might even use a phrase like, well, you just don't want me to have any, and then fill in the blank. You deal with power plays by first being able to recognize when it's happening. Second, by knowing this should not be happening. Third, by expressing your objection assertively to the other person that you will not have this type of conversation or action directed towards you anymore. And last, only respond in the future to this person if they interact with you appropriately. Interaction management is learning to manage your own power in relationship with others, and also learning the powers others might exhibit in their relationship with you. I hope to see you around in the future. And thank you for watching this video series.